Do you ever have a moment, a single perfect snapshot in your mind that you go back to, when the world was soft and your heart wasn't a fortress, but a garden? For me, it's a Saturday morning, October. The light in our little apartment was the color of honey. I can still smell it coffee brewing, the crisp autumn air sneaking in through the cracked window, and Leo was dancing. He had our daughter, Chloe, who was maybe 2 years old, balanced on his feet, her tiny hands wrapped around his thumbs. She was squealing, this pure, uncontainable bubble of joy, and he was singing along to some old Sinatra song playing from his phone, his voice terribly off-key. He was in his boxers and a ratty old t-shirt, a god of his tiny domestic universe. I was curled on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, just watching. My sketchbook was open on my lap, a half-finished design for a new app interface staring back at me. But I couldn't draw, I was just so full. This was it. This was the life I dreamed of during all those sleepless nights in college, fueling myself on cheap coffee and ambition. Leo and we were supposed to be a partnership. We met in a computer science lab at Stanford. He was all charisma and big ideas, a storm of energy that could light up a room. I was the quiet one, the architect. He would paint the vision, I would build the foundations. And we did. We built Nexus, a social media integrator, from the ground up. It was my code, my elegant, beautiful code, that was its beating heart. But it was his face, his voice that sold it. We were the golden couple. Tech's power duo, some magazine called us. He loved that. I loved the work. I loved building something with him. And Chloe was our miracle, the unexpected, glorious plot twist. She had my dark, serious eyes, but her father's devastating smile. When she smiled, the whole world had to smile back. It was a law of nature. That morning, Leo caught me watching them. He stopped his clumsy dancing, winked at me over Chloe's head, and said, "Penny for your thoughts, my love," and I, fool that I was, whispered the truth. I was just thinking, this is everything. I don't need a bigger company, a bigger house, just this, just you two. He smiled, that brilliant salesman's smile that had secured us millions in funding. But now it was just for me, or so I thought. This is just the beginning, Alara, he said, his voice low and confident. We're going to build an empire, you and me. I believed him, with every fiber of my being, I believed him. My world was built on the bedrock of that man. His dreams were my dreams. His faith was my currency. The company was our third child. We nurtured it, fought for it, bled for it. We were on the cusp of something huge. A massive acquisition was looming. We were days away from signing papers that would not only make us wealthy, but would cement our legacy in the tech world. Our legacy. I remember the last normal day. I'd left the office early to pick up Chloe from preschool. She had a fever. Leo stayed behind, said he had to crunch some numbers with the board. He kissed me goodbye, his hand cupping my cheek. Don't worry about a thing, my love. I've got it all under control. I looked into his eyes, those familiar, warm brown eyes I'd woken up to for a decade, and I saw nothing but love and assurance. I saw my partner, my best friend, the father of my child. I should have seen it. They say hindsight is 20/20, but that's a lie. Hindsight is a knife. It carves away all the beautiful, trusting memories and leaves only the stark, ugly truth underneath. As I drove away, my sick, sleepy daughter in the backseat humming a lullaby, I had no idea that the world I had so carefully, so lovingly built, was already beginning to fracture. My heart was a frantic bird against my ribs. I fumbled for the remote, the blue light of the television flooding the dark room, making me squint, and there he was, Leo on every channel, standing at a podium, looking exhausted but resolute, heroic. The ticker at the bottom of the screen screamed, Nexus Co., founder blows whistle, exposes company, shattering data breach. I couldn't breathe. A data breach, my code, no, it was impossible. I'd built those security protocols myself. They were flawless. Then I heard his voice, trembling with manufactured emotion. It is with a heavy heart that I must announce a catastrophic failure in our core architecture. A backdoor, deliberately woven into the source code, has led to the exposure of millions of our users' private data. The camera flashes were like lightning, illuminating the single, perfect tear that traced a path down his cheek. As CTO, the ultimate responsibility for this betrayal of trust, falls on me. But I cannot, in good conscience, allow the person truly responsible to remain in a position of power. The room began to spin. The blanket, Chloe's warm little body, the honey, colored light from yesterday morning, it all dissolved into a cold, gray static. It is with profound personal disappointment, Leo continued, his voice breaking just so, that I must announce the immediate termination of my wife and co-founder, Alara Vance. The evidence is undeniable. She created this vulnerability. For months, she has been siphoning user data, selling it to third-party brokers. The word wife hit me like a physical blow. He didn't say partner. He didn't say my love, he said wife, making it personal, making it a story of intimate betrayal. He was throwing me to the wolves. To save the company, to save himself, the phone started ringing, and it didn't stop. Reporters, investors, friends, their voices a blur of shock, accusation, and pity. By dawn, my photo was splashed across the internet. Not the one of me with my daughter or accepting an award. They used my Stanford ID photo. I looked young, intense, severe, the perfect villain. Leo came home as the sun was rising. He didn't look at me. He went straight to the bedroom and started packing a suitcase. Leo. My voice was a rasp, a ghost of itself. Why? He finally turned, and the man I saw, he was a stranger. The warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by a flat, cold calculation. It was the only way, Alara. The board found the breach. They were going to pin it on both of us. This way, I can salvage the company. I can save our shares for Chloe. You lied. I whispered, the words ash in my mouth. You stood there and you lied, my code. It was perfect. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. No, my love, it was yours, and now it's your word against mine. The board has seen the evidence. The manipulated logs, the fabricated emails, it's very convincing. He zipped up his suitcase. The sound was final, like a coffin closing. You'll be served with divorce papers by the end of the day. Don't fight me on custody, Alara. A court will never grant it to a convicted felon. I sank to my knees. Right there on the hardwood floor we had picked out together. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. The pain was too vast, too absolute for sound. It was a vacuum, sucking all the air, all the light, all the future out of the world. I had lost everything in the space of a single night. My reputation, my life's work, my friends, my husband. And I was about to lose my daughter. He walked out, just like that. The door clicked shut. And in the deafening silence that followed, cradling my feverish child, with the world screaming monster at me from every screen, something in me broke, but it wasn't a shattering, it was a forging. The tears finally came then, hot, silent, relentless. They weren't tears of self-pity, they were a baptism, a washing away of the woman I had been, the trusting, soft-hearted woman who believed in love and partnership. As I rocked my daughter, watching the sunrise paint the sky in colors of fire and blood, a new resolve, cold and hard and absolute, crystallized inside me. They had taken my voice. They had made me the villain in my own story. They had left me with nothing, but they had left me with silence. And as I held my daughter closer, a fierce, primal protectiveness surging through the numbness, I made a vow to myself, to her, to the ghost of the woman I used to be. If silence is all I have, I'll make it my weapon. It's a long time, long enough for a city to change its skyline. Long enough for a little girl to forget the sound of her father's voice. Long enough for a ghost to learn how to live again. We moved to the other side of the world. A small, quiet town in Finland, the land of 1,000 lakes and long, dark winters. It suited me. I changed our names. Alara Vance was dead, buried under an avalanche of scandal and lies. I was Alara Koskainen now. Chloe was Lumi. It means snow. She loved it. The first year was survival, pure, unadulterated survival. The legal battles drained every cent I had that wasn't frozen or seized. Leo, with the full force of the company's legal team, got sole custody. My visitation rights were supervised, contingent on psychological evaluations I couldn't afford. I saw the look in his lawyer's eyes during depositions, pity laced with disgust. I was a non-person, a cautionary tale, but a mother's love is a terrifying force. It can bend reality. I took a job as a junior coder for a small gaming company. I worked nights, I learned. I consumed every piece of new technology, every emerging trend, and The silent Arctic hours of the night, while Lumi slept, I began to build. I didn't build a company, not at first. I built a fortress, an identity so airtight, so separate from my past, that not even Leo's considerable resources could penetrate it. I started freelancing under a pseudonym Kallio. It means rock in Finnish. I became the go-to architect for impossible problems, the ghost in the machine that the big tech giants hired for their most sensitive projects. They didn't know who I was. They just knew my work was flawless, and with every project, every transfer of cryptocurrency into my anonymous wallets, I was gathering strength. I was gathering ammunition. I watched Nexus from a distance. After the scandal, the acquisition fell through, but Leo, the resilient hero, the wronged husband, managed to secure another round of funding. He rebranded, he pivoted, he became a minor celebrity, the handsome, tragic founder who had overcome personal betrayal. He gave TED talks on ethics in the digital age. The irony was so thick you could taste it. He got married again, to a sleek socialite named Isabel. The pictures were everywhere, the perfect new family. It should have broken me, instead it hardened my resolve. He had built his new life on the grave of mine. When Lumi was 8, I knew it was time. I had the resources, I had the plan, and most importantly, I had the silence. I hadn't spoken a word to Leo, or anyone from my past life, in 7 years. They had forgotten me, and that was their first and fatal mistake. I moved back to California not as Alara Vance, but as Alara Koskainen, the reclusive Finnish tech visionary. I founded Kallio Systems. Our mission statement was simple, elegant, and lethal: to build unbreakable trust in a connected world. We offered a suite of security and data integrity tools that were years ahead of anything else on the market. My code, my architecture, my silent, elegant revenge. The tech world took notice. We were the new darling, mysterious, innovative, impenetrable. My revenge wasn't about hate. It was about calm, surgical justice. It was about exposure. The first to fall was Mark, the board member who had helped Leo fabricate the evidence. Kallio Systems quietly acquired a majority stake in his new startup, then exposed his rampant embezzlement. He was ousted in a very public, very humiliating boardroom coup. Next was Sarah, the PR head who had crafted the narrative that destroyed me. She was up for a prestigious award. The day before the ceremony, an anonymous dossier landed in the inbox of every major journalist in the city, detailing her history of lies, smear campaigns, and ethical violations. The award was rescinded. Her career was over. I did it all from the shadows. There was no gloating, no triumphant reveal, just the quiet, inevitable click of a lock falling into place. Leo tried to reach out. He sent emails to Alara Koskainen, requesting a meeting, proposing a synergistic partnership between Kallio and Nexus. I never replied. My silence was a wall he could not scale. The pressure mounted on Nexus. Their aging, clunky architecture, the one I had built and Leo had neglected, was failing. They were losing clients to Kallio Systems in droves. Their stock price began a slow, steady decline. The media narrative shifted. Leo was no longer the brilliant visionary. He was the caretaker of a dying empire. The final hook was set when I announced Aegis, a revolutionary new data protocol that would render every existing security model obsolete. It was the culmination of my life's work, and the one company that couldn't survive without it, the one company whose entire business model would be obsolete, was Nexus. They had no choice. They had to come to me. I sat in my corner office, the Silicon Valley skyline sprawling before me, a monument to a world that had once cast me out. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. The door opened and he walked in. 7 years. He was still handsome, but it was a weathered handsomeness now. The boyish charm had been sanded away by stress and the relentless California sun, leaving behind lines of tension around his eyes and mouth. He looked tired, the kind of tired that sleep can't fix. He offered me that famous smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. It was a tool worn down from overuse. MS? Koskainen, he began, his voice still that smooth, persuasive baritone. Thank you for seeing me. I must say, your reputation certainly precedes you. He looked around my office, his gaze lingering on the abstract art on the walls, the awards on the shelf, the stunning view. There was a hunger in his eyes, a desire to possess, to own. It was the same look he'd had when we first started Nexus. Some things never change. I didn't stand. I just watched him. I let the silence stretch, thick and heavy in the space between us. I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his face. He was used to controlling the room, the narrative. Here, he controlled nothing. Please, I said, my voice even, with the faint, unplaceable accent I'd cultivated in Finland. Have a seat, Mr. Morty. He sat, leaning forward, hands clasped. I'll get straight to the point. Aegis, it's a work of genius. Frankly, it's the future. And Nexus needs it, with a substantial offer for an exclusive license. I steepled my fingers. An exclusive license. You want to control it, to protect our market share, he said, as if explaining something simple to a child. You understand how this business works. I do, I said softly. I understand it very, very well. Another pause. My calm was unnerving him. I could see the sweat beating at his temple. Look, he said, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. Name your price. We can structure the deal any way you like. Stock options, a seat on the board. I let him dangle. I let him offer me the very things he had stolen from me. The irony was so perfect it was almost poetic. I'm not interested in a license, Mr. Morty. I said finally. His face fell. Then what? A partnership? A merger? We can talk terms. I'm not interested in a merger either. I reached slowly into my desk drawer. His eyes followed my movement, wary now. I pulled out a single, slim document and slid it across the polished surface of the desk towards him. It was a term sheet for a full, hostile takeover. He stared at it, uncomprehending for a moment. Then he began to read. I watched the color drain from his face. The confidence, the charm, it all crumbled away, leaving behind raw, undiluted shock. This is absurd. He stammered, his eyes wide. You can't, the board will never. The board has already agreed. I said, my voice still quiet, but now it carried the weight of absolute authority. I've been quietly acquiring your debt for the past 18 months. I control 1% of the voting shares. My offer, as you'll see on page 3, is more than generous. It represents a 30% premium over today's, rather depressed, closing price. He looked from the paper to me, his mind racing, trying to find a foothold. Why? Why would you do this? What do you want with Nexus? It's a sinking ship, is it? I asked, tilting my head. Or is it a company with a foundational technology that, while clumsily managed, still has immense potential? A technology I happen to know intimately. His eyes narrowed. That word, intimately, had struck a chord. He was searching my face, really looking at me for the first time, past the sleek silver, blonde bob, the expertly tailored, severe black suit, the air of unshakable European poise, and then I saw it. The moment of recognition, it didn't come all at once. It was a slow, dawning horror. His eyes traced the line of my jaw, the shape of my brow, the unwavering stillness of my gaze. He leaned back in his chair as if he'd been shoved. His mouth fell open, no sound came out. Alara, he whispered. It was a breath, a ghost. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. I just held his gaze, letting him drown in the truth. It's not possible. He breathed, his voice shaking. You disappeared, you were broken. You broke Alara Vance. I corrected him, my voice like cool glass. You shattered her. What was left had to be remade, stronger, harder. You taught me that trust is a vulnerability, Leo. You were my most valuable lesson. The weight of the years, of his own lies, came crashing down on him. He was staring into the eyes of his ghost, and the ghost was holding all the cards. All of this. He gestured wildly around the office at the term sheet at me. This is revenge after all this time. Revenge. I repeated as if considering the word for the first time. No, this isn't revenge. This is justice. The kind that doesn't scream or cry or beg. The kind that just is. I stood up then, walking to the window, looking out at the empire he had coveted. You see, you didn't just steal my company, Leo. You stole my name. You stole my daughter's childhood. You made the world see a monster when they looked at me. I could have sued. I could have screamed my truth from the rooftops, but you would have buried me in legal battles. You had the money, power, the narrative. I turned to face him. He looked small in the large leather chair. So, I decided to play a different game. I decided to build a new narrative, one where I don't need to accuse you of anything, one where I simply demonstrate, for the entire world to see, that I am the better architect, the better strategist, the better Everything. I walked back to the desk and tapped the term sheet. When I take control, the first thing I will do is open an internal investigation into the original data breach. All the server logs, all the emails you thought you'd deleted. They have a way of resurfacing when you know where to look. The truth will become part of the company's official history. Your legacy, Leo, will be a footnote, a cautionary tale about arrogance and deceit. He was crying now, silent, helpless tears of a man who has lost everything and finally understands why. There was no performance in it this time. This was real. What about Chloe? He whispered, his voice ragged. Lumi. I corrected him gently. She's happy. She's safe. She's loved. She doesn't remember the man who tried to destroy her mother, and she never will. I picked up a pen and held it out to him. Sign the papers, Leo. Relinquish your shares. Walk away. It's more mercy than you showed me. He looked at the pen as if it were a venomous snake. Then he looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the final, crushing understanding. He had not been defeated by a rival. He had been outgrown by his own victim. My silence had not been weakness. It had been the quiet, patient space in which I built my army. My revenge wasn't an explosion. It was a restoration of balance. He took the pen. His hand trembled as he scrawled his name on the line that ended his reign. He stood up, a broken man, and walked towards the door without another word. He didn't look back. I didn't watch him go. I turned back to the window, the city lights beginning to twinkle in the twilight. There was no triumphant thrill, no burning satisfaction. There was just a profound, echoing quiet. The ghost was finally at peace. The revenge was never about destroying him. It was about reclaiming myself. It was about proving that my integrity was stronger than his lies, that my silence was more powerful than his noise. He thought he had fired me from my own life. So I built a new one, a better one. From the ashes, I didn't rise with fury. I rose with grace, and in doing so, I proved the one truth he never understood. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's justice wrapped in grace. Silent revenge.